Hey everybody, Yankee here. I want to come at you today with a little story that has me irked in a couple of different ways. The first way is that it's just an example of how the ATF loves to abuse its authority. And the second part of it that irks me is how the ATF and the government treat things like alcohol and marijuana differently. And they pretend that marijuana is the more dangerous of the two substances when we know definitively that alcohol is far worse than marijuana when it comes to aggravating illegal behavior, let's say. What happened was a man in Florida was going to his FFL. He'd already went to his FFL, purchased a gun, was having it shipped in. He filled out the 4473, and he passed his background check. He was cleared to pick the gun up. They called him, told him, hey, you can come pick your gun up. So he comes in to pick it up, but when he comes in, there is an investigator from the ATF there. One of their industry operative investigators or something like that, operations investigators. Basically, someone who comes in and makes sure FFLs are crossing their T's and dotting their I's and keeping their paperwork properly, etc. He's a bookkeeper. But he's got an ATF badge, and with it, I guess, comes an attitude because this ATF agent decided that he was going to order the FFL to not deliver the firearm to this guy because he might possibly smell of marijuana, that he thought that he may smell marijuana on the guy. And therefore, he wanted to deny him his constitutional rights, even after he's already passed the 4473. So that right there irritates me, that an ATF agent can just violate someone's rights like that over something like they might smell like marijuana. Because here's the thing. You can smell like marijuana in Florida. It's not illegal. They have medicinal marijuana. So maybe he lives with his mother who has cancer, who has a medicinal marijuana card. He would smell lightly of marijuana if that was the case. It'd be almost impossible to get rid of it. Maybe he borrowed a friend's car who smokes marijuana, either legally or illegally. He might smell of it from that. That doesn't make him a prohibited person. Maybe he was just with his friend who smokes medicinal marijuana, whatever. There's a dozen different reasons he could smell slightly of marijuana or possibly of marijuana. Believe me, if someone is blatantly smelling like marijuana, you can tell. Believe me, I have my mom and my sister around me sometimes, and you can tell when someone blatantly smells of marijuana. To say that they might possibly smell of marijuana, that means it isn't very strong. So that is not an excuse to deny someone their constitutional rights. But these agents, like I said, even though this guy is just a glorified secretary, a clerk, he decided he wanted to exercise his muscle and deny a citizen who already jumped through all the hoops that are put in front of him their right to buy a firearm. I think that is an atrocity, that they would give someone that power and allow them to get away with it. They set up all these hoops that people have to go through to make sure they're okay to own a gun and to exercise their Second Amendment rights. And then even after they do it, they feel that they can just wantonly deny someone their rights for no real good reason. Because like I said, there are a dozen different reasons someone could possibly smell of marijuana, which wouldn't make them a prohibited person. Also, the whole notion that marijuana is somehow bad and would be a reason to deny someone their Second Amendment rights, that's ridiculous. What if he'd come in smelling of, beer, like he'd had a beer with lunch? Would they have denied him then? Would they have said, oh, you smell like you've had a beer, you can't have your gun? Probably not. There'd been an outrage over that. People would have thrown a fit. Do they tell people, hey, are you an excessive user of alcohol on the ATF forms, the 4473? No, they don't. Even though anyone who's ever been in law enforcement knows that alcohol plays a part in the vast majority of violent crimes. Marijuana plays almost no part in violent crimes. In fact, the only crimes marijuana plays a part in usually is possessing marijuana, smoking marijuana. Those are the only negative things about it. People tend to have it and use it, but it doesn't cause bad behavior. Alcohol is linked to almost all, it's the vast majority of violent crime. Somewhere along that line, alcohol's been involved. Domestic violence almost always involves alcohol. It's just a really bad catalyst for bad behavior, alcohol. Yet they treat it like it's okay. Marijuana, no, that's awful. But alcohol, that's fine. So like I said, this just bothers me for multiple different reasons. The very fact that some pencil pusher with a badge and an attitude can deny someone their constitutional rights and they have very little recourse, that's horrible in my mind. The ATF needs to go away. All they're constantly doing is harassing people, subverting people's rights, infringing on their rights, and they need to go away. Or at least it just needs to become the Department of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Illegal Drugs or something like that. Intoxicants, whatever. Because guns don't need to be involved in their purview at all. Not the same thing. So guns are a constitutional right. So I wanted to point that story out to people in case you're someone who's on the fence about the ATF. This is the kind of stuff they do. At least this time they didn't murder somebody. Quite often they just murder people because they're suspected of minor gun crimes. So this is not as bad as it could be, but it still angers me. And not only because it's, like I said, some guy with a badge and an attitude trying to be a badass, but it's also the fact that a slight smell of marijuana can be used as an excuse to deny someone their constitutional rights. That is a shame. Like I said, marijuana is no more dangerous than alcohol. In fact, it's far less dangerous than alcohol. Far less abused than alcohol. Has far less medical issues than abusing alcohol does. So this whole notion that it's somehow horrible, it's the devil's lettuce, that kind of crap, pisses me off. And it's just another example of why in this country we need to be able to exercise our rights without some little organization of jackbooted thugs coming in and trying to flex their muscles just because they can.